Module 4 Game Theory. Competition is a key factor of modern life. A competitive situation exists if two or more individuals are taking decisions in a situation that involves conflicting interest and which the outcome is controlled by the decisions of all parties concerned. We assume that in a competitive situation, each participant acts in a rational manner and tries to resolve the conflicts of interest in their favor. In this context, that game theory is developed. Professor John Newman and Oscar Morgenstern published the book entitled The Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, wherein they provided a new approach to many problems involving conflict situations. This approach is now widely used in economics, business administration, sociology, psychology, and political science, as well as in military training. In games like chess, poker, etc., which are played as per certain rules, victory of one side and the defeat of the other is dependent upon the decisions based in skillful evaluation of the alternatives of the opponent and also upon the selection of the right alternative. Essential features of game theory are finite number of competitors, finite number of action, knowledge of alternatives, choice, outcome or game, choice of opponent. In game theory, there come certain words we have to familiar. First comes the two-person zero-sum game. Two-person zero-sum game is a situation which involves two persons or players and gains made by one person is equal to the loss incurred by the other. For example, there are two companies, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and are struggling for a large share in the market. Now, any share of the market gained by the Coca-Cola company must be the lost share of Pepsi, and therefore the sums of the gains and loss equals 0. In other words, if gain of Coca-Cola is 40%, so the lost share of the Pepsi will be 40%. The sum gain and loss is 0. So it is known as two-person zero-sum game. N persons game. A game involving n persons is called n-person game. In this, two-person game are most common. When there are more than two players in a game, clearly the complexity of the situation is increased. Next, the familiar word in the game theory is payoff. Outcomes of a game due to adopting the different course of actions by the competitive players in the form of gains or losses for each of the players is known as payoffs. Then a payoff matrix is in a game the gains and losses resulting from different moves and counter moves when represented in the form of a matrix are known as payoff matrix or gain matrix. This matrix shows how much payment is to be made or received at the end of the game in case a particular strategy is adopted by a player. Payoff matrix shows the gains and losses of one of the two players, who is indicated on the left hand side of the payoff matrix. Negative entries in the matrix indicate losses. This is generally preferred for the maximizing player. However, the same matrix can be interpreted for the other player also, as in zero-sum game. The gains of one player represent the loss of the other player and vice versa. Thus, the payoff matrix for Mr. A is the negative payoff matrix for Mr. B. The other player is known as the minimizing player. He is indicating on the top of the table. The payoff matrix can be understood by the following example. The payoff matrix is shown here. So, this x and x2 are the strategies for the player x, y1, y2 are the strategies for the player y. The outcome 6, 9, 12, 15. These are the gains of this player x. Same time, these values denote the losses for the player y. There are two types of strategies in a game theory. They are known as pure strategy and mixed strategy. Pure strategy is a predetermined course of action to be employed by the player. The players knew it in advance. It is usually represented by a number with which the course of action is associated. Mixed strategy. In mixed strategy, the player decides his course of action in accordance with some fixed probability distribution. Probability are associated with each course of action and the selection is done as per these probabilities. In mixed strategy, the opponent cannot be sure of the course of action to be taken on any occasion. Next comes decision of a game. In game theory, best strategy for each player is determined based on some rule. Since both the players are expected to be rational in their approach, this is known as the criteria of optimality. Each player lists the possible outcomes from his action and selects the best action to achieve his objectives. This criterion of optimality is expressed as max min for the maximizing player and minimax for the minimizing player. So next comes the important statement, maximin and minimax principle. Maximin criteria. The maximizing player lists his minimum gains from each strategy and selects the strategy which gives the maximum out of this minimum gains. Minimax criteria. The minimizing player lists his maximum loss from each strategy and selects the strategy which gives him the minimum loss out of this maximum losses. Now comes value of game. In game theory, the value of game is considered as very important. The value of game is the maximum guaranteed gain to the maximizing player if both players use their best strategy. It refers to the average per play of the game over a period of time. Consider the following games. In the first game, player X wins 3 points and the value is 3 with a positive sign, and the second game the player Y wins 3 points and the value of the game is negative, which indicates that Y is the winner. The value is denoted by B. The saddle point in a pair of matrix is 1, which is the smallest value in its row and the largest value in its column. The saddle point is also known as equilibrium point in the theory of games.